Let's do this. Hey folks, this is Robert Jackson. Thank you for tuning in to the podcast. And today we're going to be chatting with someone who um, sort of semi is involved, is affiliated with a website studio called Acting and Voice Studios or AVS. So we're going to be chatting with somebody who's been in the industry for a while. Ladies and gentlemen, we have Miss Lita Ernsteen. Thank you so much for joining me today.
You're welcome. Hi, nice to be here.
Not yeah, it's totally my pleasure. So in case you're gonna tell, like it's morning time and I'm just starting to you know, shake off that morning crud as I like to call it. So yeah, would you like to share the audience just a little bit more about yourself because I know you're an actress, you do all this stuff. What people mostly know you for, and all that good jazz. Any fun hobbies or just anything you want to share, feel free to do so. The floor is all yours.
Great. So yeah, I grew up in the north suburbs of Chicago. I spent my whole childhood there. I started doing child acting when I was 8. I started with a tour, the Sound of Music Asian tour, and that kind of hooked me into the business. And I came back to Chicago and started doing a bunch of Chicago theater while I was here. And then I ended up going to college for theater, but that was in New York. And I went to a school called Cap 21 Malloy College. And yeah, I spent a year out in New York after. And then I came back to Chicago just in August, and I've been here since. I've really been enjoying it. I've been doing way more auditioning and theater related things since moving here. So I've been really feeling like I'm thriving with what I've been working on since I was a little kid. And yeah, aside from theater, I've gotten really into doing yoga. I start my morning every day with at least 10 minutes of yoga before I let myself look at my phone, and that's been really good for my mental health. Um, but yeah, I've got some learning of hobbies to do. When you grow up your whole life doing theater, that usually is your hobby. And so now that I'm like doing that as a career, I've been trying to figure out, what I enjoy doing besides the thing that I'm trying to do for a living. So yeah, that is me.
Yeah. For somebody like me who mostly specializes in voiceover, and I think I've had like a little experience being up on the stage, but it was just that was just something that I did, as a hobby. But as I got older, it was little did I know that it would actually be something that I could. Like you said, it started off as a hobby, but now it's been turned into like an actual career. So it's just funny how life works out.
Yeah, it really is. I can totally, now that you say that, I can totally tell that you're a voice actor.
Oh yeah. It's something that I sort of get often on the show, which is kind of funny to me. Um, so so you've done a lot of theater work, stage plays, and you said that you started when you were 8 years old doing the Sound of Music. So how do you think that, since it was being your first play, I'm assuming, how did that really set the trajectory for what you wanted to do, for what you wanted to set out for as your career? Like, how did that, set the foundations, to set the stone for you? Like, it really, I guess, what's the right word? It really did set off your acting itch that made you want to pursue this more. Like, hey, this is fun. Maybe I should start doing this more often. Like, maybe this is my life now, so to speak.
Yeah, so I had done it like school shows before then. I was in third grade, so it's not like I had a whole bunch of experience, but I went into this audition, and I guess I did one voice lesson before and kind of worked on it. And I think part of it was just being like a cute little kid who was confident, and that's really all it took when I was a child actor. But um going through China and seeing like we witnessed thousands of people, different audience members who didn't even speak our language. We were in China and saw how much it impacted them and how much they loved to see the show. And it also was the first time I'd ever been anywhere as crazy and far away as China. And so it was kind of like in my head, theater can is my ticket to getting to travel the world and getting paid to travel the world. And so when I came back to Chicago, um, that was a 4-month tour. It was supposed to be 9, but there were some natural disasters happening in China, so we ended up coming home. And so my mom was very good about, she found me an agent in Chicago and I would go out on different auditions. I did that until maybe middle school. In middle school, I started taking classes to actually learn how to be an actor. I feel like as a kid, you kind of scrape by on just natural talent and just being cute. But starting in 6th grade, I started taking with a mentor who really beat me into shape and being the actor that I wanted to be. And she prepared me all through high school. I was part of an ensemble she created for musical theater where we would put on a bunch of shows all the time. And so I kind of veered away from the professional stuff so that I could have time to do these shows that she was putting on because I was learning a lot through them and getting to do roles I'd always wanted to do. And so after doing that, it was pretty, I didn't have any other considerations when I was applying to college. I knew I wanted to be a fan in musical theater, and so I pursued it. So that's what I did. Yeah.
Nice. And do you have a collection, like any memories, recollections of your favorite moments being up on the stage? Any favorite shows or just
Ooh,
stuff that you like to gush about?
yeah. Um, So I unfortunately, because I was so young in China, I don't have a lot of memories. I think a lot of my memories of that time were gathered from pictures and videos. And so I've seen videos since of like the kinds of stages we were performing on, which were, Broadway caliber stages, just not in New York. And so looking back, it's pretty crazy that I performed on some of those stages. But, since then, in high school, I got to put on a production of Carrie the musical, which my friends and I still talk about occasionally. It really bonded us. A little bit of a trauma bond, but we definitely became very good friends all through high school, working on that together. And I got to sing, I was Carrie White, and I got to sing this beautiful song at the beginning of the show that like I worked really hard on to get just right, and I feel like I really nailed it. And I felt like the audience was trying understood what I was trying to say, and I guess I've been chasing that like high of being on stage ever since.
Okay. Yeah, because I know that being in China for a long period of time and then returning to America, it must have been quite a transition. So how are you able to make it? Did it come like seamlessly? Did it flow, or was there um, like especially when you're going from one country to another, you know, was it like something that you had to slowly learn, like relearn the process of like, oh yeah, I'm performing for this tour, and then I'm back in America doing this. So did it take a while for you to like naturally transition back to like, oh right, now I got to do this again, or like there's new stuff that I got to learn in my little utility or my tool belt, or just was it
Um,
easier? Was it kind of tricky to manage?
I think it was honestly because I was a kid. It didn't feel so abnormal to be doing that. Honestly, I remember I came back and I started 4th grade, like right when I came back. And I remember I was still jet lagged because it's a 13-hour difference from Chicago to where we were in China. And I just remember that was honestly the hardest struggle of coming back, was just like being reacquainted. I think it was fun. Some of I was kind of a little bit like in my area, people knew who I was. And so it was cool to like be treated a little differently, but also like a little weird because, people kids, the popular girls we were talking to me and they never did before that. Like things like that were a little weird, but it's been so long since then that I don't really think about that time as often.
Oh yeah. Um, yeah, it can be really hard when you're moving, especially to a different country. So I understand. I know the feeling. Um, so with you doing like a lot of these shows and whatnot, let's see. So I think I asked earlier, like, what are your hobbies or what do you like to do for your downtime? If you'd like to share that real quick.
Yeah, I said a little bit that it's been something I've been trying to figure out, honestly. And because I've spent so much time just in whatever free time I had singing and going to rehearsals and things like that. But now that I'm doing that somewhat less and somewhat more in different aspects, I'd say I've gotten really into, like I said, doing yoga. Like to start my day with yoga. I feel like it really helps put me in a positive mindset for the day. And I feel like after you build a practice, you're able to utilize some of those techniques throughout days. Other days, like with stressors and stuff, I'm able to, breathe through things that I wasn't able to before, which has been really nice. I'm actually considering eventually becoming a yoga certified teacher. But right now, I'm still just enjoying like learning yoga before I go how to make that a career as well. A lot of my downtime is spent, looking on different casting websites and submitting for stuff and creating self tapes, which are such a big thing nowadays. I've also gotten really into cooking. I have my own kitchen here, which is lovely, and I feel like um, I'm vegan, so I've gotten to explore a bunch of different recipes that I never really did before. Now that I have free time, but yeah, I still feel like I keep myself pretty busy even with all of the even without school in my life. I have a job and I just fill it with lots of classes and all sorts of fun things. But yeah.
Yeah. You know, it's really good to keep yourself busy, especially since we all got we have our health and we have, you know, what we do on a day-to-day basis. So it's pretty much nice to, keep yourself occupied and busy, especially during, you know, um, these fascinating times that we're in right now. So, would you say that your career has gone, because I know that it's sort of different for everyone, but would you say that it has the work, like your own career with life, do you feel that it's kind of picked up, it's gotten busier since the pandemic, or has it slowed down? What would you say, in your
Um,
opinion?
well, I had the fun experience of graduating during
Like if it's
COVID.
steadily
For
increased.
my can you hear me?
Yeah, I could hear you. Yeah, I was just
Yes.
about to ask, like, has it steadily increased or has it? Yeah,
Yeah.
I'm just curious.
It's been kind of hard to say because as I never experienced life post college without the pandemic in my life. So while I went from, elementary to middle to high school to college, always had my life built around school. And then once I graduated, it was in a post COVID time. And so life has been kind of weird. I'd say in some aspects, I have more time with myself. I'm not in class all day, not commuting all the time. When I was living in New York, I had quite a long commute to work, and it was also just a lot busier of a city and a lot more stressful of a city than I think Chicago has been. So I'd say it's definitely have more time in some ways, but now that I've been auditioning a lot more, I feel like even on my days off from work, I'm, memorizing scenes for self tapes and editing them together and submitting and reaching out to different people and trying to make contacts with people. And so it definitely takes up my time for sure. So I don't know. I'd say that's a yes and a no, that I've had kind of both my time increase and decrease.
Totally. Um, so as someone who is mostly used to doing in-person stuff, were you like getting somewhat acquainted with this new Zoom, this online stuff? Like, sometime after, March 2020 hit and whatnot.
Yeah, I feel like in college, I definitely, we transitioned in March 2020. That was my junior year of college. I felt like I was doing okay with the Zoom classes the end of my junior year, but once senior year hit, I don't know if it's just regular senioritis or whatever, but being on Zoom, I learned that I just do not learn well from Zoom classes, which is ironic because we met on a Zoom class, but I definitely think that some of my time on Zoom has been just me looking at myself and not really paying attention to what the teacher is saying. So since graduating, there's been some holes to my education that I've wanted to fill, and some of them were met at school, but they were on Zoom, and so I just didn't learn well from them. So I've been taking in-person classes in Chicago, and I feel like a lot of my education is still happening now. But I'm getting to actively choose each class that I take, which is a big step. When you're in a 4-year program, you're just kind of thrown a curriculum and you have to do every class on it. But now I get to choose all the classes I want to take, and I'm meeting cool people in the city, and it's been good for me. So yeah.
Yeah. Would you say that moving to Chicago has definitely helped a lot when it comes to moving your career at an upward trajectory? Wow. I can use words. Yeah.
Yeah, I absolutely think so. I think in musical theater, we are at a precipice where there's such a push for, and rightfully so, for inclusion and diversity in casting, which I think is so excellent, and about time that we have more people in these areas. That being said, there are 20,000 other white girls also in musical theater who are looking for the same roles as me. And so when all of the girls graduate from their programs and move out to New York, it's definitely a lot more competition. And I've also just, that was part of my reason for moving to Chicago, is I had some of my old connections from high school and prior in Chicago, but I felt like in Chicago I've really blossomed into a better person, honestly. In New York, I felt like I was surviving and just kind of in survival mode. And here, I've had more time and more comfort, and I felt more relaxed here, and I felt more able to devote my free time to actively working on my career. I when I was in high school, I did a talk back of the musical Waitress with Jessie Mueller, who is one of my like favorite role models in musical theater, and she actually grew up around here in Chicago. And she talked to us because we were from Chicago, and she told us that she didn't think she could ever have made it in New York if she hadn't spent some time in Chicago first, building up her resume. And I feel like I've taken that to heart, and I've always kept that in the back burner. And then when my lease was up in New York, I thought, that was the time to try Chicago while I'm young and not, like mentally attached to New York. And I'm really glad I made that leap. I think it's been really great for my career. And I've already been doing, I've only been here 2.5 months, and I've done so many more auditions and classes than I ever did in New York. So I'm very happy, and I think that Chicago was the right choice for me as an actor.
Yeah. Um, so is it mostly like when you're doing plays in when you're doing theater in New York, because I know that the Broadway scene can be really competitive, but in Chicago, I'm okay, so I'm not really too familiar with like the Chicago side. I know that there's like a lot of great shows and play like classes that are over here where I live in LA. So what are the main differences? Like if you can find like what are some of the main like when it comes to how the plays are structured, how it is like when you're doing something in Broadway, when you're doing something in New York compared to when you're doing something like in Chicago. Are there like any differences? Is it kind
Oh
of the
yeah.
same or yeah, how would you describe it? Describe it. Sorry.
I You're good. I'd say Chicago has a lot more opportunities for smaller theater and a developmental theater. And, there's lots of smaller theaters in church basements and in little black box. There's all sorts of places here that in New York, you basically have Broadway and off Broadway. And, there are some regional theaters in Long Island or all throughout, but most of the actors out there are going to be auditioning for the same shows that are already playing on Broadway or playing off Broadway. And so I'd say when I was in New York, it was and in school in New York, it was very centered on how to audition for shows in New York and how the casting people in New York think. But I'd like to think that in Chicago, we're in the Midwest. It's a little bit nicer all around. People are a little bit nicer to each other here. I think here there's more opportunities for growing your career and starting out your career. And I don't think my school necessarily advocated for any other cities to live in and work in besides New York City, because if you can make it there, you can make it anywhere, which is great. But Chicago's also great as well.
Right. Um, So it's really good to know because, like I said, I'm not super familiar with the Chicago, um, acting community. So it's really good to at least, have some more knowledge, when it comes to learning about different, because I know that since everybody's, still kind of working remotely from home, it's really nice to at least know about the like if you're in the Illinois area, it's really nice to look into the classes and the studios and, just pretty much network and connecting with people, from across the globe. Literally from all across the globe. I guess if there's one upside to COVID is that we didn't really have this option when, we were on lockdown. So it's really nice that we're, making friends and making, a lot of connections throughout the industry, like either in the States, outside. It's just wonderful how it's literally just exploded since, 2020. If there's one upside that I can say about the pandemic.
Yeah, I totally agree. Um, yeah, there's a lot of great studios. I mean, acting and voice studios. I've I'm a facilitator for several of their classes, and it's been a cool opportunity for me to network because I've gotten, before all the actors joined on the Zoom call, I've been able to just chat one on one with these casting directors and with these agents and, talk to them like people. I've met some of their kids and they're people too. They're looking for you to solve their problem. And so it's nice to like not be so scared of them. And then they get to kind of see my work. I read with people in classes where there's scripts involved and I'll be their reader. And it's nice to, practice my cold reading skills, but also show a little bit of range because I've gotten to be everyone in the class's reader if they choose to have me as the reader. So I've definitely gotten a lot from this experience and met a lot of people. And in those Zoom calls, I've had people from, they're in the middle of the night where they are in their time zone, but they decided to come to this class, which is a pretty impressive thing, I'll say.
Yeah. So speaking of classes, would you like to give shout outs to or recommendations to anybody that you've met along the way, whether it be, people that you've worked with in the theater community or just classes and workshops that you like to, or just people that you've made, like some of the best friends, people that you've made, and, just shout outs if you want to stroke people's egos, if that's your thing.
Yeah, that's tough. In Chicago, I've been pretty much yes anding to anything I've been offered. So, literally in the process of moving, I hadn't even had like my bed in my apartment yet. I chose to accept a literally just a background role on something, and I made $50 and I got to meet a bunch of actors in the area, and that was really the reason I did it, which was super cool. I've met some people there that are I'm still in touch with some of them. um I'm right now I'm taking a class in Chicago that is an on-camera class because like I said, my on-camera classes were on Zoom and I just didn't learn a lot from that. So the people in that class have been really cool. I just went to a Halloween party of one of theirs and got to talk to her outside of the classroom setting, which was fun. Um, and then my parents have been very helpful along the way and always been supportive of my career, which is not always what people can say about their careers. So, yeah, those are my shout outs.
Yeah, of course. So how did you get in touch with ABS since we're now approaching to this segment of the podcast?
Yeah, so that was actually a listing on Backstage. I basically just did an interview on Zoom. They had me cold read a script, and they were like, "Great, well, this is a non-paid position, but you get to meet some cool people, and you get to take the classes for free if you ever want to." I've yet to take that opportunity, but I definitely would like to. Um, and yeah, they every month they ask us for our schedule, we give them our schedule, and they end up putting us with different professionals, and we were taught, we did like a 1 hour lecture of how to work a Zoom call basically, and that was that. It's been very chill. I've probably run about 15 of their classes, and I've never regretted doing it. It's always been a fun time, and I've learned a little bit each time. I take my own notes while people are going. Um, yeah, that's how I ended up there. And I'm still, with my schedule being like it is, I'm still doing it occasionally, but not always.
Of course. I mean, it's really nice to be consistent with these classes and training and whatnot. I'm still taking classes and we're still working on our skills and just applying something new to our, um, I mean, we're just pretty much learning something new every day.
Absolutely.
Yeah. Um, so with everything that you've done, all of this that you're doing right now, so like, do you have like any particular like goals or like anything that you like to do? What is something that you're striving to achieve in the foreseeable future?
Yeah. I think now that I'm here, I'd like to establish more connections in Chicago, and eventually, I'd like to be a working actor in Chicago. I've been doing plenty of auditioning, and that's been great to just meet directors and things. So I'd like to do that, and then hopefully from that be able to invite representation and get represented, and hopefully that would help me with the booking of new stuff. So just to be a working actor eventually. My dream is to one day, as always has been, to be on Broadway, but I'm learning, that Chicago is a great theater scene as well. So I think that's maybe one of the only times I would move back to New York would be if I booked a Broadway show. I couldn't say no to that. But yeah, I've just been, I think my goal is to continue doing what I'm doing and hopefully see some results sooner or later. I mean, it's only been a few months and I've already seen some results. So, yeah.
Totally. It is really good to know that as long as you're still keeping at it and being consistent, the hard work is definitely gonna pay off sooner than you realize.
Yeah.
Yeah. Um, so I guess we're almost running out of time. So like, do you have like a list of projects or just anything that you like to share or talk about? Stuff that at least that you can share right now without breaking NDA or what have you.
I'm doing a reading of a play tonight, so that'll be fun. If that goes anywhere, that would be a good
Nice.
place to start. I just was on the phone with another person who'd like me to start doing some reading and developmenting their work. Um, just auditioning, all sorts of things. Yeah, I mean, my dream is to be doing musical theater, so anything that I can sing and act in would be great. I've gotten some opportunities to do that a little bit here, but yeah, those are my current things I'm working on, potentially working on some filming or recording some music, which should be pretty cool. But yeah, all through like different people I've just met and just need people needed a body, and who fills that better than me? So
Yeah. So for media, do you have a list of like favorite, I guess productions or shows or just anything that you like to share? What's on your watch list at the moment?
ooh.
Reading anything?
So
Yeah.
I'm definitely like a chronic rewatcher. I'll always advocate that people watch Gilmore Girls, best show ever made. It's on Netflix. Great acting, great comedic chops, but also filled with definite drama in there. I'm working on in my acting class. We're working on comedy and sitcoms, so I've been watching some of those lately. Big Bang Theory and Friends and Parks and Rec and How I Met Your Mother. All of those are good. Schitt's Creek, another great one. Um, yeah, those are what I've been watching lately. Nothing super new, but yeah.
Yeah. Do you also have like any other like any more fun facts or I guess what people don't really know about you? What's something that not a lot of people really know that you like to share? Just fine.
Ooh, that's tough. Um, I'm also very into interior design. That's something I'm
Nice.
considering now that I have some more time, is like going and taking classes on that. You know, I just got my first apartment by myself and I have just really enjoyed like making the space my own. And so that's something I'm considering looking into, as something that's like completely different from acting. So yeah.
Yeah, how did you get into that?
Um, I've just kind of acquired lots of things throughout my years, and I'm like a very like anally neat person, and so it's honestly stems probably from like having some anxiety. Is that like I want my space to be so comfortable, and now that I have my own space, I've been like really enabled and been in charge of like making everything my own, and I've really enjoyed doing that.
Yeah. So, what's your last piece of advice that you want to give to anyone out there who are interested in, who have many aspirations and they want to do the thing that you do? Any last advice to anybody out there? Just life advice,
Um,
career advice, just anything in general that comes to mind.
I think my advice is to work on who you are as a human being and an artist. Being a good human being creates a good artist, and vice versa. So, um, with your free time, you don't have to spend every minute with a class or with a lesson. You know, spend some time to journal and really get to know yourself. And those are where you'll find your where you shine, that you can use for your theater or your art.
Of course. Um, I guess I don't have any more questions that are coming to mind. So, yeah, I guess you could just self-plug or just do your little promo thing and just share your social media, projects, websites, and just all that good jazz.
Sure. My website is elitaernstein.com. That's Ernstein is spelled Ernsteen. That's where you'll find videos of me and photos and any upcoming stuff. Instagram is Control Alt Deleta. It's a very fun pun my friend came up with.
Ha.
And my last reminder is, even though this is a midterm, make sure you go out and vote in November if you can.
Right. Do you have any last words, farewells, anything?
Uh, Thanks for having me on. This was really fun.
Yeah, of course. It was a pleasure getting to have you on as well. If anybody who wanted to watch this on like YouTube or any of the podcast stuff like SoundCloud, it will be up later today. So, as of the time of this recording, so thank you so much for watching this episode and be sure to stick around next time. There's going to be plenty more that are going to be coming. It's just been kind of slow here lately due to other like IRL stuff and just work in general. So luckily, I should have more time to post more episodes in the coming weeks. So stay tuned for that. And yeah, um, any plans for Halloween? Just as a quick last minute.
Oh,
Watch.
I'm working in a haunted house. I'm going to be one of the Shining
Nice.
twins. So that'll be fun. Something I've never done before.
Oh yeah. Um, I still have not seen the movie in full. I know about that scene and also the Here's John,
Yep,
horror.
same here.
Since I'm kind of getting into the oh man, movies. Yeah, that's oh, that's something that we would probably talk about on another episode, but yeah, that's gonna be like that would be fine. Um, horror. Yeah, something that I would want to do for like as a little theme here on the podcast. So yeah, um, I guess with that said, stay tuned for more spooky, spoopy fun here. And until then, this is Robert Jackson, and I'm signing out for today. And until then, happy Halloween, you weenies, and yeah, take care and have a day. And yeah, good good day, afternoon. Bye. See you
Bye.
later. See you next time. Peace.